Hi everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I thought I would take you along with me for a week in the garden. I have a lot of jobs to get done in both the cottage garden and the flower farm, so I thought I would share with you what I get up to this week. It's been a while since I've done a weekly vlog and I'm very excited to get back into doing some jobs. I have quite a few things to do in terms of bed prep and starting some more seeds for the flower farm. I'm going to be starting a few of those today and also propagating some feverfew. And also just generally working on weeding and tidying gardens and planting things. So there's going to be a lot in this vlog, and I will try and get a few things done each day and share what that looks like. This is my off season for the flower farm, so I'm hoping in a few months I can be back with selling some bouquets. I'm really excited to have ranunculus and anemones again, and also stock. So I really want to get some more stock seeds sown today because I'm succession sowing those to have heaps for the flower farm, and kind of just keep it very simple, basic this year with what flowers I'm growing. I just want to make it really nice and easy for myself. So yeah, I'm going to get started today. Today is Monday, it's a public holiday here, and there's also a lot of construction going on outside after there's a lot of people clearing up after the floods that we had. So I'll probably do a voiceover for the majority of this video, but I will chat you through what I get up to throughout this vlog. So the first job that I wanted to get done on this day was start raking up some of the leaves that were down underneath one of the pear trees that we have. We have some really old fruit trees on the property that were planted by my Uma and Upa, and this one here is more kind of like an ornamental tree right now. We don't really get any of the pears. It's very old, and if there are a few fruits, it's usually taken by the birds, which is completely fine by me. I really enjoy having at least one nice deciduous tree on the property, something that we don't really have a lot around us. So I was really thankful to be able to rake up some of these leaves and to be able to use these on the garden. Deciduous leaves are fantastic for adding to like compost piles or as a mulch onto your garden beds, and if I had a lot more I would be raking up a lot more. I really do love deciduous trees, and I think they are just so beautiful with the changing seasons. But I did manage to rake up a few buckets of some leaves here for some mulch that I'm going to use on the flower farm, and it just provides a little bit more organic matter and helps to smother out the weeds on the garden beds that I add them to. It is also going to add some nutrients into the soil over time and just really act as a protective layer over my soil. We do have very clay soil here, so any organic matter that I can find, preferably free if that's possible, then that's fantastic for me, and I want to be adding that onto my garden beds to really help to break up that clay in our soil. I'd love to know if you have any deciduous trees in your area. What kind of trees are you collecting leaves from? Or if you have any other trees that might not be deciduous, let me know if you collect leaves from your area and how you use them in your garden. You'll see here I am just raking back some of the mulch away from the garden bed. We had so much water go through here. If you've seen my last video, there was just so much, it was just sheets of water over the flower farm, and it really moved a lot of the mulch that I had in the pathways, and yeah, it wasn't a good time at all. What I'm really trying to do with my garden beds is to build them up and to raise them up a bit higher than the pathways so that I can make sure that the water drains really well. So I'm just kind of cleaning up the pathways a little bit here just to make sure I know where the pathway is and where the garden beds are. because so many things have just moved around in this garden area. And then I'm going to be placing the leaves back on the garden bed, and that's just going to be the first layer in creating these no-dig garden beds. Later in the week, I don't think I got it on film, but I did add some coffee grounds, and this week coming, or next week, I plan on getting some seaweed as well and some seagrass from some of the local beaches, and also adding that onto some of the garden beds in the flower farm. Basically for me, the more organic matter, the better right now, just to really help build those beds up and just allow me to also see where my garden beds are and then where my pathways are as well. Another job that I wanted to work on was kind of a similar job, and that was pulling back some tarp on another garden bed to check how it was going and help to amend the soil to be able to plant in this probably in a month or so, or a few weeks depending on how long the seedlings take. This tarp has been on here for a few months now, and as you can see, there's still quite a lot of weeds underneath. These might still grow back, I completely understand that, but I'm at the point where I really do need to be prepping these beds and actually then getting some seedlings in the ground. So I'm just pulling back some of these weeds. I have quite a lot of creeping weeds in the garden, and you can see all of the grass as well. This definitely, I don't think I got all of the roots from the grass, so it could come back. But my method for these garden beds is really just to add a lot of organic matter on top of them so that I can also smother out this layer below. The soil in here is really good in terms of nutrients. The main thing is just the weeds that I'm dealing with. And thankfully, as you can see here, I have a lot of helpers in the garden. There were so many worms in this garden bed, and it just goes to show you that even adding things like plastic tarps over the top of garden beds to smother out weeds, for me, it doesn't really impact a lot of the worm activity in the soil. So yeah, I haven't had a problem with this. I know some other people do, but yeah, thankfully there's still worms around. I'm also making sure to have lots of breaks. I ended up bringing this little garden seat down because as you know, I go throughout pregnancy, I am definitely getting tired quite often. So Scott made sure to bring me a cup of tea and I could just sit back and relax a little bit. This is my tiny little bump that's growing slowly, but definitely growing. And yeah, I just love the little seat that we set up there. I'm also adding a little bit of horse manure to this garden bed. This is me not looking that impressed at the block of horse manure that came out of this bag. It's actually been sitting in there for quite a few months and is pretty rotted down. It just ended up getting really wet with all of the rain, so there was just a lot of moisture in here. So I'm trying my best to break this up so that this can be the base layer of organic matter and amendments in this garden bed. As you can see, it's a little lower than the pathway that I have here, so I'm trying to just build this up again with whatever I have available. So then I'm going to be adding on a layer of leaves from that pear tree on top of the horse manure. And this will also really help that horse manure to break down really quickly, get all of those worms in there moving around. And then I'm topping those leaves with some sugarcane mulch as well. And that also just helps me to be able to see where the garden bed is and where the pathways are. And I really enjoy using sugarcane mulch in the garden. It works really well for me and is really great for our clay soils. I also wanted to propagate some feverfew on this day. I have shared how to do this in a previous video, but you can see here there's so many shoots growing out of this one feverfew stem that I have here. I just cut some back from this little patch that I have at the base of the flower farm. It's looking very weedy, but it still produces flowers, and I'm going to be propagating some of these. I usually just use these trays here, fill them up with some potting mix mixed in with some perlite, and that just really helps for drainage. This is just the seed raising mix that I use. And then I'm going to be separating all of those little feverfew cuttings and potting them up for new plants. Feverfew is one of my favorite plants to propagate. You can get so many plants from one feverfew plant, and they are probably one of the most popular flowers that I've grown in the flower farm. People will even just buy bunches of feverfew, so they've been really profitable for me and something that I'll always grow in the flower farm. So this is me demonstrating just how to take some cuttings of one of the feverfew little seedlings. So this is one here. I just pulled it off, and I like to take off as many of the leaves as I can, just leaving a few to help photosynthesize. So I end up with something like this, and then I just plant this into the seed raising mix. It is as simple as that, and like I said, you can get so many cuttings. I managed to do these 2 trays here, and I actually have a few more trays already done, so they look really great right now. Over the next few days though, they do start to wilt a little bit and they'll look really sad. Give them a week or 2 to bounce back, and you might not get all of them that are going to take. They might not all root in the mixture that you've propagated them into, but you'll at least get some. They're free plants, and this is definitely my favorite way of propagating feverfew to get more plants. Good afternoon, everyone. It is currently about 1:15 and I haven't done anything in the garden all morning. It has been actually a really cold day today. It's been so chilly. I am currently sitting right next to the heater to get warm. I have a cup of tea and I'm basically not feeling very good today. So I have been feeling really sick all day, so that hasn't been fun to just ride the nausea through, but I think I'm starting to feel a bit better. I did think that a lot of my nausea had stopped after I got into the second trimester, but then there's these days that it just returns. So I'm currently trying to just be a little bit productive and go through some of my seeds here to pick out some seeds to sow hopefully this afternoon. I want to do another succession of status and maybe even just keep going with some of the stock flower. I've just got to see actually what I have in here. So this is how I organize my seeds. These are from Kmart and they're very, very useful. I'm sure you can find other brands, but they're basically just little card photo storage boxes. They come in just little boxes like this, and I color code them, so all of like the cooler colors, like the blues and greens, are for cool season flowers, and then the warmer colors I separate into the warmer types of flowers, or flowers that like warm weather. So I'm just going to go through these, and I think I'm going to just see what I have, because I'm trying not to buy too many seeds this year because I do have so many in these boxes. I do have a packet of iceberg status that I'm probably going to sow this whole packet. This is just like a staple for me to grow. I'm also not growing snapdragons this year, or too many. I am trialing Cherry Twist, which was a snapdragon from the seed collection, but I'm not really going to be like sowing this and planting this for the flower farm as such, but more for my cottage garden. And in terms of stock, I am going to sow some more. I have Giant Column Pacific Crimson. I'm going to plant more of the Giant Column White Christmas. I also have a Giant Column mix, so I might just use the rest of that packet up. And I have Giant Column Pacific Pink. And I do still have a few more packets of those to do one last succession in probably about 3 weeks of these to have some later stock. And yeah, that's what I'm going to be sowing today. And I also want to plant some more straw flowers or everlasting daisies. Don't know how well these are going to germinate because these are 2 years old now, these seed packets, and usually with the everlasting daisies and straw flowers I like to sow them as soon as I buy them because the viability rate, or the germination rate, sorry, of these goes down quite quickly. So I might just try and use up at least all of the open packets that I have. So this is what I did last year, and I had a full row of these and they were amazing, so profitable. Highly recommend planting these because then I use these in my Christmas decorations as well. And then I have a packet of just some more mixed and copper red. So yeah, get those in the ground. I cut up old soy milk, oat milk containers, cartridges, what are these called? Tetra Paks. And I use just a permanent marker on these and it lasts really well, and I can just make so many from one milk container. So yeah, I use these and have found they really work for me. So I'm just going to write up all of the labels of these, go make up some seed raising mix, try not to feel too sick, and just get through today. I don't know how much else I'm going to be working on. Hoping this passes pretty quickly and I can get back out to do some more bed prep and clearing down in the flower farm. So we are skipping to the next day now. I didn't get any of these seeds started. I just ended up feeling really bad all day and didn't want to push myself. So I decided to rest, and the next day, thankfully, I felt so much better. No nausea again. So yeah, this pregnancy has been super interesting and very up and down with nausea. Thankfully, it is slowing down in the second trimester, but occasionally, yeah, I do get these days of when I feel super sick, but being outside in the garden really does actually help me to feel better, getting that fresh air. But you'll see here, this is how I am sowing seeds. This is usually how I start all of my seeds in these trays. I just make some little lines in the trays and then pop them in. I make sure to plant the seeds in rows so that I can see that they're all coming up and what they look like, and then if there's any potential weeds in the seed raising mix, I can see that really easily. And these are all of the trays of seedlings that I have that are growing nicely. And on this day I managed to plant all of that status, the stock, straw flowers, and yeah, that was about it, more of the status. So it was a productive seed sowing day, and I'm super glad to get this second succession of flowers started for the flower farm. I also wanted to do some work down in the flower farm at the old zinnia patch to clear these out, and they really needed to be taken out so that I can start to amend these garden beds. Now what I'm wearing is very much flower farming fashion on a cold day. Don't come to me for fashion advice. I just put on whatever I can to stay warm and comfortable. Looking back at this footage, I don't look very pleased. I promise I was actually quite happy and listening to a podcast. But anyway, this is just the reality. Got to get the jobs done. It's also started raining really heavily while filming this recording, so sorry if you can hear that in the background. But anyway, this was just, one of the jobs that I usually do on a weekly basis is just clearing beds out and just popping on a podcast and getting some jobs done. And it's not the most fun of jobs, but definitely needs to be done. And having a good podcast or YouTube video, I've been watching loads of garden YouTubers right now, and old You Can't Eat the Grass lives, just to have something on while I am working, and that's been really nice to listen to in the garden. So they were all cleared, and then we just decided to tarp some more of the garden. So Scott and I brought out a few more plastic tarps to keep the weeds down. These will stay on here for a few months to help control the weeds. Right, I'm actually editing this video now, and I wanted to jump in here and just give you a quick update on the podcast that I have been working on. If you don't already know, I do have a podcast called the Peas and Quiet Podcast, which is a garden podcast. I chat all things gardening, how to grow food, how to grow flowers, and also just how to create your dream backyard. I have been putting the episodes on this channel, but I've made the decision to actually create a new YouTube channel to upload those to. So I'll have the link to the new channel in the description box. I'm pretty sure it's just called the Peas and Quiet Podcast. But I'm just in the process of re-uploading and re-editing some of those podcasts to go up on a new YouTube channel, just with like music, copyright, things like that. It was taking a bit of time, but I do have a new episode out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and however you listen to podcasts. So just wanted to let you know that to head over to my new YouTube channel where all of the podcasts will be located. I am also going to be recording a really special one with my partner Scott next week, so make sure to keep an eye out for that. And if you do have any questions for us, I would love to know your questions of things that you would like us to discuss on that episode. We're going to kind of be talking a little bit more about our goals and the future and our 5-year plan and creating different businesses and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited for that episode. But I did just want to quickly jump in here as a little interlude to let you know that the episodes will be up on a new channel, but still the same wherever you do listen to podcasts. If you ever do use a certain app and the podcast isn't up on that app, please do let me know, and I will work on trying to upload them onto the correct app for you so that you can listen to the podcast. Right, now we can get back to the video. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy Friday. I am out in the garden this afternoon. It's almost about 3 o'clock and I want to get just a few jobs done this afternoon. I have been stuck inside all morning editing the podcast and this video and doing other computer stuff pretty much like most of yesterday and today as well. I've had a lot of admin catch-up things to do, so that's why I've been a little bit absent from the garden today and yesterday. But I want to do some fertilizing in the garden this afternoon. I'm trying to implement this thing called Fertilizer Friday, and that's so I remember every Friday I'm going to be feeding some plants and making sure I keep on top of nutrients. And I'm also going to be taking some worm castings out of my worm farms. I have a full video on this that I will link in the description box, so I'm not going to show the whole process in this video, but I'll just kind of show you what the castings are looking like, because I need to empty those to reset those worm farms. And also there's a lot of liquid that's come out of the worm farms after all the rain we've had. I try to keep them under cover as much as I can, but we had like horizontal rain, so I couldn't really get around that. So that is the plan for this afternoon. If I have time, I'll probably do a few more trades of feverfew just to get a few more done, and also I want to propagate some salvia. I have one really nice salvia bush that I cut back, and I can see it's reshooting from the ground as it always does, but I want to see if I can kind of dig up some of the sides and maybe pot them up. I don't know, I've never done that before, so I'll see how it goes. But yeah, other than that, I was going to get around to some weeding, but who knows if I'll have time. I really need to, but there's just been so many other things with the flower farm that I've needed to get done this week, so this is more of like a flower farm vlog. We'll come back to the cottage garden very soon, and maybe I can get Scott to help me do some weeding in this garden behind me. So I'll roll a few clips of what I get up to this afternoon and probably do another voiceover and yeah, chat through what I'm working on. Actually, before I get those jobs done, I am going to get Scott to turn the compost. I'm going to film just to show you what we do. I'm trying to do this on a weekly basis now. We use like a little compost turner. It's the best thing if you have a compost bin like we do. You can get them from Bunnings, and yeah, they are very, very useful to add air into the compost. So first we're going to turn this bin here. I'll turn you around and show you what this one looks like. So this bin has been sitting for a few, maybe like 2 months now, and it's definitely starting to break down. I filled this up in a previous video right up to the top. It was completely full, and it has been gradually just getting lower and lower. So this is the compost turner. It's kind of like a handle up the top, and then you basically just twist it into your compost bin, or you can use it on compost piles as well. And then you just turn it down as much as you want to go, then lift it up pretty much like that. And this is super important to add air into your compost. It's going to break things down a lot faster, and is just a really important component of a compost bin. You want to think of it as like a living organism basically. It needs things like water, air, food, and all of the ability for microbes and worms to move through. So air is really important, and that is what we're going to do with this one, as well as the other bin that we have, which is our working bin. And then this is our other bin that we have. This is our working compost bin. It is quite full, and it might be a bit hard for Scott to turn it. Oh, there's a lot of flies in there as well. Sorry, Scott. Oops. There's just a lot of vinegar flies in here. Working compost bins, you've got stuff happening. This is just due to probably an oversupply of nitrogen in this bin. It's fine, they'll only stick around for a few days and then they'll move on. But I do think because it is so full, and because we do have so many vinegar flies, we might actually just wait a few days to turn this. So Scott, you don't have to do this right now, just to make it easier for both of us. But yeah, this is our other compost bin, and it's filling up very quickly. There's lots of activity going on in here, so yeah. We'll turn that maybe in another day or two when things just slightly break down more, because I added in maybe like 3 buckets worth of material in here over the last few days. Right, now I'm going to go empty the worm farms and probably just go down to the flower farm and feed some flowers down there, just because I want to keep up the nutrients in those areas. So this is what a finished worm farm looks like in terms of it's full and ready to be moved down a layer. There is some white mold growing on here. It's completely fine. It's just because we've had a lot of humidity and moisture, and yeah, it'll break down and it'll be fine. Don't worry if you do have just a little bit of mold in your garden, particularly around more carbon rich layers. You can see here there are so many worms in there. That's what it used to look like, and this is what it will turn into after a few months, after those worms have done their thing. Now these are worm farms that we add. What comes out of the kitty litter goes directly in here, if you know what I mean. Not the actual kitty litter itself, but we sieve it out and add it into here. And you can see there are no more remains of what comes out of the kitty litter. It is completely broken down and completely fine to use on your garden. Now I use these more on my fruit trees and native plants just to be 100% sure that I'm not spreading any nasties. But I do just want to show that it can be done to compost your pet waste. I've got a whole video on it, and using worm farms to do it is one of the best ways to deal with that problem. This here is just a little bit of the liquid that comes out of the worm farms. We catch this with buckets and old containers. And then once I have scooped out all of the worm castings, that finished layer, I scooped it all out. I add a bit more sugarcane mulch in there to kickstart that again, to then add more things from the kitty litter. And then you end up with some beautiful worm castings here that I will gradually use over the next week or so, either to the flower farming beds or around fruit trees or the native plants. And then I use that liquid that comes out of the worm farm to fertilize my plants. I only really need a little bit of this, and I use it more as a foliar feed, so meaning that the liquid is going onto the leaves of the plants and the leaves are also uptaking that. It will also be uptaken by the roots because it will probably get to that layer as well. But giving your plants foliar feeds has so many benefits, can really help with bugs and pests, and can just create an overall healthier, strong plant. So I am going to be aiming to do this at least once a week just to keep on top of that nutrients. And then this was the salvia plant down here that you can see is re-sprouting in and amongst the weeds, but it'll be fine with just a few ground cover weeds around it. And I wanted to see if I could propagate this. It has grown so much in the last 2 years and is a really vigorous grower in spring. So I want to see if I can propagate this to plant around the garden to have some strong, fast growth of a plant in other areas. And I'm just digging up the outer edges of the plant, and originally I thought that I could get down to the root layer and then just be able to plant these straight away, but I am going to actually just trim these and then take off some of the leaves and plant them into soil, just because it wasn't kind of growing as I thought it would. And yeah, I'll just be taking soft cuttings of this salvia and seeing how that goes. They are all sprouting from the roots from the base of the plant, but they're just quite leggy, the cuttings, so that's why I'm going to be trimming these a bit more and then propagating them. I don't use anything special to propagate my cuttings. I don't use any like rooting hormones or anything like that. I just make sure to remove leaves and be planting the cutting with at least a few nodules. So that's where the leaves come out from the stem, making sure that a few of those are underneath the soil. That's where you're going to get root growth and root development. That's just the way I work through my cuttings. I've never propagated salvia before, so we'll see how these go, but I would really love a few more of these around the garden. If you have propagated salvia, then please do let me know your experience and also when you propagate them. Now might not be the perfect time, but I am learning each and every day, so yeah, we'll see how these go. I think that is going to be it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed coming along with me for a week in the flower farm, seeing just a few jobs that I got up to this week. I'm really enjoying just taking it a little bit slower right now and just kind of more like pottering around the garden, doing some jobs here and there. But like always, I would love to check in with you and know what you're doing in your gardens right now. So make sure to leave a comment. I love reading all of your stories about your gardens and what you're getting in the ground now or what you're working on. If you'd like to support the channel, you can head over to Patreon and see extra content over there, or else I do have a coffee link if you want to tip me a cup of coffee or tea to get me through all of the editing that I need to do for these videos. Or if you can simply just like the video and subscribe to the channel to see more content, that also really helps me out and is completely free for you. Thanks again for joining me on this week's video. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and until my next one, happy gardening everyone. Bye.